Hi, I'm Macy.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between.
Well, hey there, bestie.
Well, hello, bestie.
I am looking forward to today's episode. We're going to talk about something that we love. But before we share the quote that we're going to talk about, Missy, go ahead and introduce our guest for today.
Yes, we want to welcome Brett Temple. Yay, Brett, we're so glad you're here.
Yay, Brett, welcome.
And we know that you have lived out our quote for this week with the perspective that setbacks aren't the end, but they're setups for a comeback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know,
yes.
Brett, based on some of your experiences that may come out through our conversation, right? You're going to get to talk a little bit more about that when we share the quote, but can you give our listeners like a quick snapshot of your background? Who are you? What do you do? That kind of thing.
Sure. So I don't know if Missy shared with you, but she and I grew up in the same area.
Yes, she did.
Unbeknownst.
Yes,
Unbeknownst to us.
Yeah, literally, where I grew up is literally about 3 miles from where she grew up.
That's right.
So that's why you have that same New Jersey accent that Missy has.
But yeah, so I was a Mississippi farm boy, which was a great way to grow up. Learned a good work ethic. Growing up on a farm, you don't work 9 to 5. You work from sun up till dark.
Yeah.
You don't work to knock off. You work till the work is finished. And so, it taught me a good work ethic, and taught me a lot about completion. Getting work completed. But I was fortunate in that I had very strict parents. I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of TV. And so my entertainment was books. I read a lot of books as a kid, and it taught me that there was a much larger world out there.
Sure.
And so I literally graduated high school on a Friday night and left the following Monday morning and went in the military.
Thank you for serving.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So when I got out of the military, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And initially, my plan was to either go into the CIA or Secret Service, and had opportunities to do both. But I had, when I got out, my first goal was to get a paycheck coming in. I was like, I got to make some money. And I knew someone, a friend of a friend that owned a construction company. He's like, hey, I'll give you a job. You can do that until you figure out what you're going to do. And turned out I was really good at it. I found it fascinating, and accelerated through the ranks very quickly, and had a lot of interesting experiences along the way. I worked for Disney for 6 years. I was one of the project managers that built Euro Disney.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool.
And then eventually started my own company, became a general contractor, and worked my way from there through into developing real estate, and was very successful at that that's one of the things I'll get into, where some of the topic of conversation is going to be relevant, till the crash of 2008, the real estate market crash. I was leveraged, lost millions and millions of dollars in the real estate market when the crash came. And, literally had to reinvent myself, start all over. And, but, through that whole journey since then and before then, I was fortunate enough. I've literally traveled to 45 countries, 42 of the 50 states. I used to do real estate investing seminars all over the country, and was fortunate enough to network with millionaires and billionaires, and spend time with some of the top success and motivational coaches in the country. Even had the opportunity at different times to dine with 2 different heads of state.
Wow.
So, I feel very fortunate that as like I said, starting out as a Mississippi farm boy, I've had a
Yeah.
very adventurous life. And
Yes.
Well,
Well,
the
I love
quote's going to
it.
be
I
perfect.
know it.
Oh, Missy, you're frozen.
This case for this week, it's a very famous Chinese proverb,
Well,
and it's this
Japanese. It's
Japanese,
Japanese.
Japanese, sorry, um, Japanese proverb. It is this: fall down 7, get up 8. And so let's talk about it. When you hear this famous proverb, Brett, what comes to mind for you?
Persistence pays. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. It's a
Yeah.
lesson that I try to teach. I've got 2 adult sons. One's 28, one's 19. It's a lesson I try to teach them that, if you fall down, that doesn't mean you're a failure. It's just an opportunity for growth. You're only
Yeah.
a failure if you quit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's, if you get knocked down, get back up.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That reminds me just exactly what you just said. It
If you are
reminds,
going to say the same thing
well,
I'm going
of
to
course I'm
say,
going to.
okay,
I'm
let
sure
me
I'm
hear
going
it.
to. It reminds me of that Chumbawamba, right? I
I
get
get
knocked
knocked
down,
down, but
I
I
get
get
up
up
You get
again.
up
again.
again.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, that
Oh
Straight
my
song has
song.
been
gosh.
a
You can tell
theme
we grew up in
song.
the same time span.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You could tell we're all the same age.
I tell you what, I feel like we could start a whole other podcast on songs and how they relate to leadership. We
I
should at
know.
least do one episode like that,
Oh,
Mayce.
maybe, yeah, maybe we'll do that. It's interesting, Brett, with what you said earlier. I don't know if Missy shared with you when you all met, but my son has a desire to be Secret Service. And, we'll see what happens. I don't think he'll wind up in construction. I don't think he has that kind of mindset. But, I just love just the little bit that you shared with us so far about getting knocked down and getting up again. I think that really is what this proverb obviously is really all about. It may not be get knocked down 7, it may be get knocked down 70 or 700. You
Right.
always have to get
Yeah.
up,
Right.
The thing
that
Yeah.
is,
one more
you
time.
can get knocked down 9 out of 10 times, and that one time that you get back up could be the one
That's
that
it.
makes you successful. It's
Oh,
not how many
yes.
times you get knocked down. It could, I mean, I've tried a lot of stuff. I've failed at a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, but it's that not quitting that's
Yeah.
allowed me to just keep moving forward. And I said, every time I failed at something, I've learned something new.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're
that's where the
failing
magic
forward.
is,
Yeah.
right? Is you've got to have find the learn.
So, Brett, let me ask you, like from a professional perspective, and I know when you and I chatted prior to the podcast, you've got a lot of stories you could share. But professionally, a time when you were knocked down and had to get back up again. Talk to us about that.
Sure. So I'll go back to that 2008 real estate market crash. Um, I was actually living in Ocala, Florida at the time, which is in Marion County, Florida, which before the crash, a lot of people don't know this, was the 3rd fastest growing country or county in the country.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And so when the crash hit, it was also one of the hardest hit
Mm,
counties in the country. I
yeah.
mean,
Mm,
real estate, construction, everything came to a screeching halt. Like I said, I was very heavily leveraged in the real estate market. I had about $75 million of real estate projects that were in the pipeline as a developer, and watched everything I'd worked for over many years just literally evaporate, as it did for a lot of
Mm,
people,
yeah.
practically overnight. I mean, within 6 months, I went from, I was looking at retiring early to losing everything.
Mm,
yeah.
And I've had a lot of people ask me, well, how did you get past that? Because it
Right.
was really, really tough for several years.
Sure.
And, I tell people in a weird way, it was literally the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
oh,
Mm,
wow.
Although I was, kind of successful on the outside, I was working 100-hour weeks, going months at a time without a day off. I'd leave in the morning, my kids would be asleep. I'd come home at night, they'd be asleep, working, like
mm,
I said, 7 days a week. Um, I didn't have a life.
Yeah.
I thought that I was building something for my family. Um, A lot of it was ego driven, I think. And, being forced to stop and reevaluate my priorities was a huge growth opportunity for me. It literally changed my perspective on everything in life, what's truly important in life. Um, you can be successful, but if you don't have balance in your life, which I didn't, um, you're really not successful. You can make all the money in the world, but if you don't have that balance, that work-life balance, and you're not working for things that have value, true value, which is your family, your personal growth, then you're really not successful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I heard you
I could
say,
literally,
oh,
write a
sorry.
book about what I went through for about 5 years after
Yeah.
that. Some of it I shared with Missy earlier. It's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Um, you know, be that'd be a topic for another conversation, but it was definitely challenging.
Sure. I mean, I heard you say earlier, I thought I was living or building this life for my family, but really you were missing it because
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
were
Yeah.
leaving when they were asleep. You were, coming home when they were asleep. And Miss, I think, we work with so many managers who
Right.
would probably say, Brett, the same thing,
Yeah.
that they think they're doing what they're doing to build this amazing life for their family, but what they don't realize is that they're really missing it. They're missing the games, they're missing the
That's right.
ballet, they're missing,
The
all
dinners.
all of the reasons that they said
Yeah.
yes to whatever position, the promotion. And that
Yeah.
really is who we love to help the most, right? Is to help people. I'm going to give you a little pushback, Brett. Missy and I don't believe in balance. We believe
I
in
knew this
harmony.
was coming. She wasn't
Um,
going to let you get away with
no, I
it,
can't
Brett.
let anybody go when they're looking for balance because it doesn't exist. But we do think that harmony exists, and sometimes you don't know that there's a difference between balance and harmony. Brett, what would you say to someone maybe who's listening that's been knocked down so many times? They are beyond that 7 of the 8, right? And they don't even know if they have it within them to try to get up again because you've been there. What would you
Yeah.
say?
I would say just try one more time. I mean, you're literally, I was thinking leading up to this call about it. I'm sure you've heard this story, and I found out recently it's actually a true story. I saw a documentary on it many years ago. There was a guy that had developed a gold mine in
Yeah, I know
Colorado,
what you're. Yes.
and the
Yes.
guy, tried for years and failed. Couldn't find any gold. Sold it to another guy who was smart enough to hire a geologist to do some surveying, and found out he was literally 3 feet away from one of the biggest
Yeah.
gold veins ever discovered.
Yeah.
The guy literally, if he would have just tried a little bit longer, he could have been hugely successful. So
Yeah.
you're literally just one more time of getting up uh,
Yeah.
to being successful.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think too, it also is like if you don't get up, it's almost selfish because if you think about your life, Brett, if you didn't get up for that 8th time, who would you miss out on helping? Right? Your kids, your family, your grandkids, someone that you work with, right? It's almost our responsibility, I think, when we're in certain roles to get up that last time, to give people hope and to prove to them like it's okay. Like what's the worst that's going to happen? Especially I think when people feel like they're in the pit, right? Like if
Yes.
you feel like you're already at the bottom, if you get up one more time, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're already in the pit.
Macy, I love what you just said. And it made me think about something Brett had said at the beginning, Brett, where you said you're trying to teach your sons this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to me because is this something that we can really teach? And this just hit my mind. Is it something that you can really teach, or is it something that you've just got to live out?
Hey, bestie. I was thinking about our listeners this morning and imagine that so many of them are like managers that we have worked with from all over the world for the past decade, feeling overwhelmed and spread thin.
Yes, and they're probably finding themselves constantly repeating expectations, fixing mistakes, or carrying too much of the load, and it's time for a change.
At Impactful Messages, we specialize in helping managers in high stress jobs take back control of their team and their time. We know that they want to lead more effectively, increase team performance, and achieve all their goals without burning out. And we created a solution.
That's right. If you're solving problems your team should be handling and you're explaining the same thing over and over again, and you're reacting to fires instead of leading forward, and you feel like it's all on you, you need to go right now to www.manager-reset.com and download our new guide.
And here's the thing. You don't need a new planner or another motivational quote. You need a reset.
So go right now to www.manager-reset.com for your free guide. You'll be so glad you did.
I think it's something that can definitely be taught.
Okay.
Because again, reverting to my background, I was just a Mississippi farm boy. There was nothing in my background that said that I had any propensities toward success other than my learned, again, it was learned work ethic.
Right.
So I think it can definitely be taught as any skill can be. It's a skill for the people that are willing to try.
Yeah. Okay, I love that perspective. So let me ask you something else. You have a varied background. You've taken some risks in your life. What role do you think that risk taking plays in resilience and building resilience?
You don't succeed without taking risks. Any dead fish can float downstream.
That is totally a Mississippi type
thing.
saying.
Yeah, I've not ever heard that before. I don't think. I don't even think that's something
either.
that Missy has shared that her grandma has said.
No, I've never heard it, Macy, but it sound like a Mississippi saying?
It does.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, you don't get anywhere by just being average. You have to be willing to take some risks. One of the lines, I read this many years ago. It's a paraphrase of a quote from Henry David Thoreau, who said, "Most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with a dream still inside."
Oh,
I decided
that's like a whole nother podcast right there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I could talk about that for hours because I strongly believe in it. About the willingness to just take a chance. I've seen people spend 40 years in a job they absolutely hate because they're too scared to take a risk.
That's right.
I decided early on, probably in my early 20s, that wasn't going to be me.
Love that.
Try or fail. And as we talked about earlier, your failures bring a lot. I've got a lot of great stories that revolve around failures.
Sure.
They give you something great to talk about, and each failure is a learning experience.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it from that approach. That okay, so what's the worst that can happen if I fail?
That's right.
And if you look at it the way, it's like, yeah, you might cause some financial difficulties, but as long as you're physically able to get up and go again, you can overcome it.
Yeah. So good.
We always say as long as a mistake isn't fatal, which they seldom are,
right?
You need to get up and try again. But a lot of our listeners manage teams, they lead teams. What do you suggest for someone in a manager role, a leadership role? What do you suggest they do if they have a collective setback, like the team failed? How do you kind of rally the troops after it's been not a personal, like a one person failure or setback, but like the whole team is down in the dumps? What do you think a good leader or manager needs to do to bring the team alive again?
Great question.
I think, first of all, the most important tool that you can have as an individual and as a collective, as a team, is the art of self-reflection. You look back on your failures and say, okay, what did we as a team do wrong? And what did we do right? Because even in those failures, there's things that you
right things
did right that maybe just didn't work out because of all the other mistakes that you made. But to me, like I said, that's the greatest tool that you have is art of self-reflection. What did we do wrong? What did we do right? What can we learn from this failure going forward and apply those principles to a different approach?
Yeah,
So
I love
good.
that.
So
Let
good.
me ask you this. This is a little kind of a different question, I think. Has there ever been a time where you had to get up after a setback, but not to push forward, but you got up and you're like, I need to change direction or I need to go down a different path?
Absolutely. That again, going back to that period of time after the crash of 2008, again, construction, my mainstay, just came to a screeching halt. And, I had a family to feed. So I had to figure out some way to bring in income. And, I was literally doing everything I could outside of construction I sold insurance for a while, which was a great learning experience. I, I, I found out that I've got a knack for building teams and, sales training. And so I was actually really good at that, even though I hated insurance. Um, but I was really good at the sales training and the motivation part. Um, so, that was a different path that I had taken, even though it was a temporary path. It
Yeah,
eventually brought me back to what, my true talent is construction, is
yeah.
something I was really good at. And once things started picking back up again, I went back to it. Like I said, I hated insurance,
Yeah.
but I did
I
what I
love,
did, I
but I
had to
think what
do to support a family.
one of the words that you just used that I hope our listeners didn't miss was that you said temporary. Like if we have to
Right.
go down a different path, if we have to change direction due to a circumstance, every circumstance really is only temporary. I mean, this whole life that we're living is only
Yes.
temporary. So like if
Yes.
you have to make a change, even the setback, right? Because again, there are listeners that are going through it right now as they are listening and they are experiencing a setback and just realize that if that is you, just please hear my words as I say them, that this too is only temporary.
Yeah. This
You
too
know
shall
that
pass.
Yeah.
I use those same thoughts
Yeah.
countless times. This is only temporary. Like
Yeah.
you said, this too shall pass.
Sometimes you have
Um,
to tell yourself over and over again, remind
yeah.
yourself, I can do hard things. This is just a temporary setback. Things are
Yeah.
moving forward. So, Brett, what would you share with someone who's listening right now who might be in the middle of a knockdown right now?
So this is probably one of the greatest life lessons I learned ever, but it happened during that difficult time after the crash of 2008, was learning the art of gratitude.
Mm.
It's hard to be grateful when everything's going great.
Yeah.
Um, you just take it for granted. Um, you know, Me and my family went through several years of just really, I mean, it was really, really tough financially. And, there would be times when I would literally open up the refrigerator. There's no food in the refrigerator,
Mm,
no money in the bank. And I would just say, God, if this is your will for my life right now, thank you. And I just
wow.
made it a point to be grateful for the difficulties, for the hard times. I just made a commitment to being grateful no matter what happened. And this is the truth. I'll swear by it. We never missed a meal.
Mm,
Never were without with food on the table, a roof over our heads. Literally, I mean, I seen miracles happen where I'd be in that situation and I'd be like, okay, I'm thankful for this struggle right now. And literally out of nowhere, money would show up.
wow.
I mean, I wasn't expecting
Gratitude
a check
really
or
is
something like
the
that.
lens, I think, that can change everything.
And it's hard.
It's
It is hard
hard.
to be grateful. I think a lot of times people, instead of going towards gratitude, they're like that, woe is me, why me?
Yes.
Why is this happening to me? Instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to be faithful that that God, you have a reason, you have a will, you know more than I do, you know what the other side looks like. Besides gratitude, I'm assuming you didn't say it, but I'm assuming it's something that you still practice regularly.
Absolutely. Like I said, it taught me how important that is because I've seen little miracles happen during that time. And so it's literally, I start every day with what I call my gratitude session. And
Yeah.
I just make it
Macy
a
and I
point.
do too.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys can attest to it too. I'm sure that, I mean, you'll see, in the Bible in Proverbs 23 verse 7, it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is
So
he.
is he, yeah.
Yep. Thoughts are
And
things.
exactly. I use the analogy, and I'm sure we've all experienced it, where, you can be thinking of a friend that lives on the other side of the country that you haven't talked
The
to in a
phone
long
rings.
time. And literally
Yeah.
5 minutes
Yes.
later, you get a call
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah.
Or you're
Yes.
thinking of a song that you haven't
Yeah.
heard in years, and you turn on the radio, the song is there. So,
There it is.
Yeah.
our thoughts are magnets, and what we
Yeah.
focus our attention on is what we attract into our life.
Yeah.
That's right.
And, the people that are constantly, like you said, Macy, woe is me. If that's all you focus your attention on, that's
all
what
you're
you're
gonna
going to
get.
manifest.
That's right.
Yes.
I
You're exactly
absolutely
right.
believe that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Besides gratitude, what other habits do you practice on a regular basis? Maybe not daily, but what do you practice for our listeners to help you stay strong and stay resilient in those moments that don't seem like you're going to be able to get through?
I believe that keeping your attention people-centered, taking your attention off yourself and focusing on other people. First of all, it'll help you through those tough times, but I think that's the reason we're here. The happiest people in the world aren't necessarily the most attractive people or the wealthiest people. It's the people that find joy in the service of others.
So
And when
good.
you're down, when you're struggling, if you find somebody else to help, not only, the Bible says you'll be repaid tenfold. It takes your attention off your troubles. And,
right.
you, even if it's for a short while,
Yeah.
it just takes your mind away from what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It makes you feel better about yourself, help somebody
It
else.
does. I mean, the
It's that
easiest
law of
way,
reciprocity.
yeah, the
Yeah.
easiest way to feel better about yourself is to do something for someone else. That's not why we do it, right? We don't go to do those things with that as like the intentionality behind it.
Right.
But if you are struggling, that is a really great way just to see someone else, your kindness, what it does
Yeah.
to them is.
We always say, even if you just go and buy someone a candy bar today that's checking you out at the grocery store, it'll put a little lift in your spirit.
Yeah.
Right? It's those small things. Well, it's about time. Unfortunately, it's such a great conversation for our big takeaway. And so, listeners, if you have only one takeaway from this week's episode, gosh, I don't know, there are so many, but I'm going to say this. Let it be this. If there's one quality that carries leaders through the highs and lows, I would say it's resilience, and we'll say partnered with gratitude, right? Falling down isn't failure. It's part of the process. The true failure would be staying down. Don't y'all think? Like,
Oh, yeah.
great
That's why
leaders.
why it's get up 8. You can't stay down.
That's right. Great leaders aren't defined by how many times they avoid mistakes, but really how quickly and consistently they rise up after them. And so every setback is really just an opportunity to demonstrate resilience.
Yeah, and the thing about resilience, it requires intentionality, right? I mean, resilience isn't automatic. You have to decide to be resilient. And every time life knocks us down, we have a choice. Like, we could either stay down or get up that 8th time. And choosing to rise builds strength and confidence and credibility with people in our lives, our family and people that we leave. And over time, that choice to get up, it becomes that habit that really separates the word that Brett used earlier, average leaders from impactful ones.
So good, so good. Brett, we cannot thank you enough for being here. You are a great guest, and we so appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. If our listeners want to stay connected with you or learn more about what your company offers, etc., how do they do that?
LinkedIn, where you and I connected, is the best way. I mean, when you look at Brett Temple on LinkedIn, I think there's maybe 3 in the whole world.
Well, that's okay. We're going to put it in the show
out there.
notes. Yeah, we'll
So
absolutely put it in the show
As far
notes.
as I know, I'm the only Brett Temple in Florida. So if you look at Brett Temple, Sarasota, Florida, in LinkedIn, you'll find me there.
Fantastic.
That'll make it easy. And as we wrap up, Brett, we ask this question of all of our guests. What is your favorite leadership quote?
I bet you have a lot, but we only have time for one. But I bet you've got a whole lot.
I do, but I'd have to go back to that quote from Henry David Thoreau that I was talking about. I don't know if it necessarily applies to leadership specifically, But I think it applies to life overall.
So
it's,
repeat
say
it
it
again for
again.
our listeners.
most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with a song still inside. So
That is
applying it to
amazing.
leadership is don't be afraid to try something different,
Yes.
and to encourage your team. And the other thing, and this isn't necessarily a leadership quote per se, uh, but one of the things I've found as a leader for, I've been in leadership positions over 40 years, be kind. People aren't motivated
Yes.
by, somebody that likes to yell and scream and curse at you.
Right.
People want to be acknowledged. They want to be appreciated. And they want to be recognized.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If
So
you
good.
if you
Brett.
treat people that way, especially people that are under your charge, they'll they'll swim the ocean for you.
That's
They'll
right.
go out of their way, and it encourages people to want to succeed. It's not only helping you succeed, but or them succeed, but you as an organization. So
Yeah,
just be
Brett,
kind.
Macy and I preach that. And so we love that. Our listeners have heard that before. So we love that affirmation that you just added to that. We're so glad you were here. Listeners, we want to hear from you too. Do you have a favorite leadership quote? We've been getting several from you. Send it our way and we might spotlight it on a future episode.
We'll be back next week with another leadership quote and more insights. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to
talk about it.
Bye,
Thank you so
Bestie.
much, Brett. Bye,
Bye,
Bestie.
Brett.
Bye, Brett.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this show, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast, leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app, and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Mpactful with an M _ messages on Instagram and Mpactful Messages on LinkedIn.